Again, the proper motivation needs to be developed, and the motivation simply is all beings need to be established in the state of the awakening of Buddhahood. To that end, I will now listen to Dharma instructions. To continue with the words of Kamachagna, to dedicate all virtue to beings and to apply yourself to bringing about benefit for others as much as you can, that will include all the resolves of a bodhisattva, or all the bodhisattva vows, the points, various points of the bodhisattva vow. So when we say we have, or when Kamachagna says for that matter, that we should dedicate all our virtue, all of our merit, all the positive things and the roots thereof which we have accumulated, that in this particular case here includes the merit or the virtue, as it is literally called, of the 3 times. We should dedicate all of that which we have already performed in the past, no matter what it might have been in the way of positive activities. We should equally dedicate everything which we are doing right now, and also whatever supposed benefit, whatever supposed merits we accumulate, or virtuous activities we perform in the future. All of this is dedicated to beings with the sole intention of benefiting them. If we were to act in this way, that would take care of, so to speak, that would include all the various points of the Bodhisattva vow, the Bodhisattva resolve that we might have taken upon ourselves. We would be very well advised indeed to begin to habituate ourselves to the act of dedication, to the act of giving away whatever virtues, whatever merit we have accumulated through virtuous deeds by way of dedicating it for the sake and welfare of beings. Why is that so important? Well, whatever virtue we might have performed, whatever merit we might have accumulated through such virtue, if it goes undedicated, so to speak, a single moment of anger that might arise within our mind stream destroys that merit completely. In this way, whatever merit we would have achieved would have been of not much use, because if that anger flares up, the merit has been undedicated, has not been dedicated, well, there it goes, irretrievably lost. What a waste that would be. Therefore, we should make it a habit to dedicate merit of whatever sort, even the smallest merit that we accumulate through the smallest virtuous deeds, immediately for the sake and the welfare of beings. Now, the ultimate dedication of merit would be to dedicate with the recognition in mind that the object towards whom we dedicate, the act of dedicating, and the one who does the dedicating are ultimately non-existent, ultimately empty of any self-nature. However, present we we are unable to recognize, we are unable to understand this. Therefore, we should take the great examples, the great guides of the past as our example. We should aspire to be able to dedicate our merit as the great bodhisattvas such as Ayam Manjushri, Samantabhadra or Avalokiteshvara have done. With this in mind, constantly to dedicate one's merit for the sake and welfare of beings, that would indeed be a good habit to develop. So the second line of the verse that we have already heard says, to apply yourself to bring about benefit for others as much as you can. So when it says that we should apply ourselves by way of benefiting others, that includes basically the whole bandwidth of whatever benefit we could cause for others. We might, for instance, come across people who suffer of one sort of sickness or other. And if we have the ability, then by all means we should use the ability to heal them. For instance, if we had any medical knowledge of whatever sort, and we could apply that in order to heal their sickness, to eradicate their pains, or if we ourselves are unable to act in such ways, we could so that they could get medical attention of whatever sort would be required. So in this way, of course, we would be extremely beneficial for others. We might come across, yet again, other people who suffer the pangs of hunger and thirst, who suffer deprivation, who are destitute, and whatever we have within our means in order to alleviate their suffering, we could help them. We could help them with food or whatever it is they need, so in order to alleviate the immediate suffering which they experience. We could come across people who have just lost all hope, who just want to go out of this life for whatever reason, because they just do not see any sense in anything anymore, and who have lost all hope and all will to continue living. So in this way, whenever we meet people of this sort, we should encourage them, we should give a helping hand wherever we could, so that they start to see the light again, so to speak. Or we could simply come across people who are depressed, who suffer of great depression, who are very distressed for whatever reason. Whatever little friendly and helping word we could extend to these people, we should by all means do so, or just sit down and listen to whatever their trouble might be. That already could make the difference. So in this way, whatever is possible and how much ever is possible, whatever is within our means by whatever means, if we can help others, if we can benefit others, then we should definitely do so. This includes all the resolves of the bodhisattvas or of the bodhicitta intention, says Karma Chakra. So if we were to act in this way, whatever resolve we would have made, whatever promise we would have made as we took the bodhicitta or the bodhisattva vow upon ourselves, that would be included in such action. Sangha Rinpoche continues to say, to see the root teacher, the main teacher, and the Yidam deity as inseparable, and not to harbor any wrong views towards them. That includes all the commitments of secret mantra, or Vajrayana as it's called, Mantrayana. As we have heard before, we were not fortunate enough to meet the Buddha himself. We were also not fortunate enough to meet the great Mahasiddhas, the greatly accomplished masters of India or of Tibet for that matter. So therefore, the root teacher, the root Lama as we call him or her for that matter, is of extreme importance to us. It is that teacher from whom we receive empowerment, from whom we receive transmission, from whom we receive instruction, etc. and so forth. So in this regard, this teacher is even kinder to us than all the Buddhas and the Mahasiddhas of the past possibly could have been. So therefore, we take this teacher as our main teacher. He's our main focus, the most important guide in our Buddhist life, so to speak. Now, to view this teacher as not being separate from the Yidam deity which we practice, that is essential. And of course it goes without saying that neither towards the Guru nor to the towards the Yidam deity that we practice we should harbor any wrong ideas, any wrong views, any mistaken ideas about them. So if that is the case, if we proceed accordingly, then whatever Vajrayana or Mantrayana commitments we could possibly have taken upon ourselves in the course of our Buddhist life, so to speak, all of these would be included within this behavior. In this regard, we might use a story again as an analogy, and which uses a story from the life of Milarepa. Most of you will be rather familiar with Milarepa's life. His life story, his story of liberation, has been translated into several Western languages. Nevertheless, these stories are all very useful because they're easy to comprehend. It happened in the early part of Milarepa's life, as most of you will know, that under the strong influence of his mother, he learned the art of black magic, and depending on the various versions of Milarepa's life which are available, it says that he killed either 18 people or 32 people or possibly other numbers of people by means of magic. Having done so, he was eventually very regretful about this, and he thought, I have done great evil, I have to counteract this evil, I should really dedicate my life now to intensive practice of the Dharma. And he went into the presence of various teachers such as Roth and others. Nevertheless, whatever he tried, it did not really work out.
Marpa Roth and Saint to Baza, lose the power of the Yasan, then it made me keep myself short. Padania, Tadila Mantin, Diego, and Sonny, and it rock on a paper on it.
So Milarepa found himself in the presence of this master Ronten Laka, who was a Lama of the Dzogchen tradition. However, as we have heard, whatever practices, whatever instructions he had received, he tried to put them into practice, yet no result would come about. And accordingly, Ronten Laka soon recognized that this was because two of them had no previous connection. He said so to Milarepa, and he said, well, that being the case, the two of us not having any such auspicious connection, there is nothing I can teach you. However, there is one teacher who is your destined teacher. You should definitely go into his presence. He is one of the main students of the great Pandita Naropa. He's known as Marpa, the translator. He lives at Lodrak, the southern cliffs, and you should definitely go into his presence. As soon as Milarepa had just heard the name of Marpa, the translator, he had goosebumps all over his body, his hair stood on end, and it was clearly obvious that this would be the teacher he should certainly go to see, and off he went to Lodrak in order to meet Marpa.
Marpa was something, young Tommy Mala. Tatarina Ma, Longo, Rogo, Shinka Chunjus, Tenga, Yaro. Then Champomba from Koshu, then Champomba from the Enzai, Ma, Longo, Shinka, Jela, Jogdevan. Then Milarepa, then your parent. So Ganandrole. Nga Marpa Lota Chenji Gurioji. Aya Marpa Lota me Tata Kale, Java Tati. Don't you the Shinka de Yoroku? Chang the Charam, Tom, Shinka the Yapos the Lone, then Gila, showed the thing, Charam Marpa Lota and Java Tati. Then Milarepa, Lasso, Chang to you, Shinka the Yaku. Then Shanka Jason, Roth, then Tata, Milarepa, the men, your pep. Tajila, then Milarepa, then your hair on you. Then Tonze, or Tacho, Marpa Lota are short from the then go to Milarepa, something, Marpa, Taze, and Milarepa, the church, the Taze, the Kepote. Some Milarepa, I get what it is. And then Milarepa saw something. I'm going to Ludo, Mod, yes, some kind of chella puddings, Nala, Chuta, Dota, and good chicken, no, easy. My brother. Chella Nala, Lima, yes, and told you, set up a mass of Yapores. Tenga gabo yoks. Ne chudon kudon sama ganga ne cho tri maso. Yana charam sama de yin solos kudon sama ne chudi chege. Yamana ne sama dang ne chudi jama ne cholzi. Milarepa san an tanga chudi tanga selling na chudi mabano.
So Milarepa went off towards the south, towards Lodrak, searching for Marpa, whom of course he hadn't met before, and he asked around. Eventually he was pointed in the right direction. And at the same time, Marpa, in his clairvoyance, knew beforehand that one of his destined disciples, Milarepa, future Milarepa rather, was on his way. And he said to his wife, Dangma, today I will go out and plow one of our fields. Is it plow one of our fields? Well, whatever. Plow one of our fields. Down by the road, get ready a keg of beer and some food, and there I will go. So Dharma, being the obedient wife that she was, did as her husband told her, got it all ready, and he went down to the field and then tinkered around for a while, pottered around a little bit, pretending to plow the field. When eventually that young person came along, who was to be our good Milarepa. And as he was nearing Marpa, who was somewhat elderly already at the time, Marpa addressed him and said, "Hey you, what are you up to? Where are you off to?" And Milarepa said, "Well, I'm looking for a person called Marpa, someone called Marpa, the translator. Would you possibly know where to find him?" And and Marpa said, "Well, I could possibly arrange something here, but while I do so, someone has to plow the field. So let's strike a deal. You stay here, you plow the field, you can drink the beer, which is there, or the water, I'm handed right now, and I will eventually send for you as soon as I have arranged the meeting with Marpa." So Milarepa thought to himself, that's not a bad deal, so he said, "Okay, done," and settled down, and he did indeed plow the field. He helped himself to the beer, finished it, and eventually he was being sent for. Someone came to fetch him, brought him into the presence of Marpa, the translator, and Milarepa was very apprehensive, and he thought, finally I'm going to meet that great master, hooray, only to be shown into the presence of the elderly farmer that he had met before. He looked at him, he rubbed his eyes, and he thought, it's the old guy. But then he realized, oh, this must be Marpa. Prostrated properly, as was the custom, as is the custom still nowadays. And then he did what was customary at the time. He said to Marpa, "I offer to you my body, my speech, my mind. Please in turn give to me the Dharma, food and clothing." This was by all means customary at the time in Tibet. And Marpa said to him, "Well, that you offer me body, speech and mind is very auspicious indeed. It's a very good thing, it pleases me greatly. However, Dharma and food and clothes, I can't give you possibly all of that, so make up your mind. If you want to have the Dharma, you will have to find food, clothing and all of that stuff somewhere else. If you want food and clothing from me, then you will have to find your Dharma somewhere else. So what is it going to be?" And Milarepa very quickly thought to himself, well, I've come here in order for the Dharma, so whatever difficulty will be entailed in finding food and clothing, I'll just have to put up with this and have to find that somewhere else. And then he informed Marpa right away, saying, well, Dharma it is. And Marpa told him, okay, in that case you can stay.
And Marpa was going, Milarepa Naranga Pojin, Japan, Lama Jing. Tan Digan Senjila, Dipa Drava Shuk Chemoji, no. Tampote Tabu Tabu and those on it. Tangala, Kambaji, Jebu, Chute Ropa Teruji, son, Tene Tambo, Kamba, Tene Daram, Tumbo, Tene Trosum, Trosum, Mambo, Jetuari, Tene Milarepa, Talam, Kare, son, and Tigre, Tene Kamba, Tamji, Jap, and Tiwari. Tene Tende, Kabla, Tene Kona, Pushin, Shigora, Marolosa. Dorje Sota Ome, Zoronga, Metan Sambo, Mochu Dorje, some Milarepa, Sherab. And then Dorje Sota Ome, Dorje Pegone, Tigam Buya, Shembo Marolota, and Jiba Dorje, Wang Shuari. Wang should Milarepa, Tangalam Buya, Pujukan made in Naranga, and Luge. And my daughter, the Zamogan Kamba Japalaso, Aleka Mongolia, Naramoto Veresa, Ungetala, Bija. And my was the owner, Chona Kai. Now, on the top of you, son. 자랑 타고 말이 파죠. 성장이 엉장 맞춰 잡아래. 아니 대나와 저거 조와 생을 조와 전부에 맞아. 조와 전부 지 조와 중중 저거 니들 조와 조 말라레파라다 정말이. 다니 칸바 당지 자는 센타라 다니 말라 사고도 저도 칸바 제가 칸바 zor로 와지지 야 담니. 다니 이게 다 다니 칸바 잡아라서 그게 접종한테 다니 말라레파가 저기게 대바로 양 다바 다 성만이. 제 말달로 다 뒤에 말라레파 Milarepa keke.
Now Marpa, of course, instantly knew that Milarepa was going to be one of his main disciples. Not only that, he was going to be his main lineage holder, who would transmit the teachings, the lineage of the teachings that Marpa had fetched from India to future generations of disciples. However, because of the great negativity that Milarepa had accumulated by way of killing all of these people and wreaking all sorts of havoc by way of whatever magic he played on other people, there was a great, there were lots of veils and obscurations that had to be purified before he would be mature enough to receive these transmissions. In order to purify and to mature him, he had Milarepa do all sorts of menial works for him. Particularly, we know through the biography of Milarepa that he had to build four large buildings for Marpa, most of which had to be torn down again when they neared completion. All the materials that were used had to be brought back again. So for quite a long time, Milarepa worked extremely hard under Marpa without getting anything, without getting any Dharma instructions, any teachings whatsoever. And he suffered greatly in this way. One day it was the case that the three other main students of Marpa came into Marpa's presence, and led by one of them, they requested the Hevajra empowerment. These students were first and foremost Ngokche Dorje and the other two, Metin Sempo and Tsupinwani. So these three came with lots and lots of offerings. They had all sorts of livestock to offer, animals of all sorts of wealth and riches and desirable things, whatever you name it, they offered it. And Milarepa thought, well, these people apparently have the great fortune to be in the possession of all of such things in order to offer them for the empowerment. On the other hand, I have worked for such a long time, extremely hard, and maybe that would suffice as an offering, and I could also receive the empowerment. So as everybody gathered for the empowerment, Milarepa also went there and sat among those, among the rows of participants ready to receive the empowerment. As soon as Marpa had seen him, he shouted at him, he said, "What do you want?" And Milarepa said, well, want to receive the empowerment, please? And Marpa just looked at him very sternly and said, "Get the heck out of here, now." And he shocked him greatly into jumping up and running out of there. He sat outside and he cried bitterly. Such behavior of Marpa's towards Milarepa may seem brutal, may seem extremely cruel, but we have to understand it as a skillful means that Marpa employed in order to purify all the negativity that Milarepa had accumulated. And so it is said, accordingly, that Milarepa, at the hands of Marpa, went through 8 greater and 2 lesser trials, which then finally sufficed to purify him of his obscurations, of the negativity that he had accumulated, so that eventually he had matured enough to receive transmission, empowerment, etc., and so forth, and become the lineage-holding disciple of Marpa.
Ena Milarepa senji ngarang kesa, kitipa toba tap lama kinze pa yen sonema lama la tane Roth puse tayong me bari. Kate la
Now the point of the story is that even though Milarepa suffered greatly at the hands of Marpa, he was treated very cruelly at times, and he was time and again bitterly disappointed. It is said in the various biographies of Milarepa that not for a single instant did he ever develop a thought of doubt about his teacher, Marpa, or for a single instant did he ever develop even the shred of a wrong view about Marpa. That just never ever happened, because Milarepa was fully clear about the fact that whatever suffering he was going through at the hands of Marpa was solely caused by himself, by the negative deeds, the murders that he had committed earlier on in his life. And this is exactly what Karma Chakra means here. If one does not ever develop any wrong view towards one's teacher, if one never gives rise to any wrong ideas about the teacher, well, that in itself will include or will take care of all the Vajrayana commitments that one could possibly have taken. It also says in the words of Karma Chakra that one should see the root guru and the Yidam deity as inseparable. Whatever Yidam deity we might practice, we could and we should by all means uphold the thought or the recognition that the guru and the Yidam deity are not two separate entities, but one and the same. However, it happens often in the course of people's lives that for a number of years they practice a certain Yidam deity, and mostly for the lack of intensive practice, of course, signs of realization, signs of success in the practice of whatever sort, dreams, visions, or accomplishments even, do not occur. So after a couple of years, one rather frustratedly thinks like, well, maybe that Yidam practice is not really the right one for me. Maybe I should try something else. Maybe, etc. and so forth. And we might ask for another Yidam practice. We might develop doubts and wrong ideas about this particular Yidam practice. That would certainly be a wrong idea. Such thoughts are wrong at all times, in all occasions. And therefore we would be well advised to, from the very beginning, never ever allow such ideas, such critical or such mistaken ideas about either the Guru or the Yidam to occur. If we were to proceed in this way, then indeed whatever Vajrayana commitments we have taken upon ourselves will be kept. Now we have heard time and again that in order to concern ourselves with the recognition of mind nature, we would be well advised to first train ourselves in shamatha or Shiné-Meditation, in peaceful resting, in order to bring about a peaceful, a quiet state of mind. When we train ourselves in this practice, we will go through several stages of this practice. The first stage of shamatha or Shiné-Meditation is likened to a waterfall or to a strong, rushing, churning water, not a peacefully flowing one at all, but a rather agitated one. The reason that it is likened to this is that once we have sat down and accustomed ourselves to practice Shiné or shamatha meditation for that matter, eventually our mind will quieten down a bit. And for the first time we will actually become aware of the load of thoughts which constantly moves through our heads, through our minds for that matter, thoughts which heretofore went unnoticed. We become aware of them in such a way that we might temporarily be under the impression that there are even more thoughts now than there were before. Well, this is simply because we were not aware of them before. Now mind quietens down a little bit and we become aware of all of these thoughts. And there is this great churning of constant mental activity that is likened to a waterfall, an agitated, frothing body of water. That would be the first stage of Shiné or Shamatha meditation, of quiet resting. And exactly now the time for peaceful resting, for Shiné-Meditation is upon us again. Today let us practice the type or the technique of Shiné-Meditation that does without any particular point of focus. Simply allow your minds, your consciousness to rest naturally in its empty, natural state, and simply leave it at that. There is nothing in particular to be focused upon. Rinpoche is here to teach the Dharma. We are here to listen to the Dharma. through this coming together of Rinpoche teaching and us having assembled to listen, great merit, great virtue is being done and great merit is being accumulated. And that should, of course, be dedicated for the sake and welfare of beings, as we do every time when we come together like this. Particularly now, let us, when we dedicate the merit, think of those 19 people who just a couple of days died in a stampede in Duisburg during the Love Parade Day. You will all have heard it in the news. Let us keep these 19 people in mind in particular while dedicating their merit, so that they may be helped onwards in their journey through the rebirths, through that merit which we now dedicate.